Kenneth Wayne Neese was born December 6, 1902 in Webster City, Hamilton County, Iowa. At the age of 16, the Neese family moved to Fresno, California. Kenny's love of airplanes and flying began at an early age. In 1922, he began taking a few flying lessons from Robert Martin. Kenny Neese came to Alaska in 1932 after a career as a flight instructor, airshow performer, barnstormer, air race pilot, and as an airmail pilot in California and Washington. The exploits of Neese's Mercy flights are legendary, as stories about his rescue mission landed on the front page of the Anchorage Daily Times with headlines like "Neese leaves on Mercy flight to Interior," and many other by Kenny were printed in the Alaska newspapers from 1933 to 1940. With the Depression in full swing, jobs, especially flying jobs, were hard to come by. Friend Al Munson had gone back to Alaska and asked Kenny to come up and fly for McGee Airways. McGee would now have 3 pilots: Estel Call, Oscar Winchell, and Neese. In 1936, Kenny became vice president and general manager of Star Air Service. McGee then severed relations with Star Airways, which left W.E. Dunkel as president, Kenny as vice president and general manager, Charles Rutan as secretary-treasurer. Kenny Neese, chief pilot for Star, one time loaned the Air Service $9,000 for a Ford trimotor needed by the Air Service from Noel Ween. For many years, Neese flew the Bristol Bay run out of Anchorage, but he was equally well known in the Kuskokwim country, where he made frequent flights. During this phase of Kenny's career, the Alaska Daily Times ran a story in March 1936 crediting Neese for being the highest time pilot in Alaska with 6,150 hours, done in 14 years total flight time dating back from his logbook that started in 1922. In 1939, Neese flew a Beechcraft Staggerwing NC-19473 from Seattle to Anchorage in 9 hours and 23 minutes, breaking all previous times between Washington, Alaska by air. Star pilots Don Goodman, Roy Dixon, Jack Elliott, Dan Victor, and Johnny Moore flew Star's blank aircraft in formation to honor Neese upon the arrival of the Beechcraft to Anchorage. Star purchased the Beechcraft Staggerwing in Los Angeles. Kenny picked it up and ferried it back to Alaska. This record-breaking flight earned Kenny the nickname Buck Rogers. This was a hallmark event for Anchorage. In 1940, Kenny knew his aircraft in Alaska well and continued his flying career and his innate ability to fly downed aircraft. In 1942, Kenny and family left Alaska for Florida due to wife Mary's health. Ralph Savory, a former Star pilot, was flying with Pan American Air and talked to Kenny about ferrying bombers for Pan American Air ferries as a civilian. His flights would begin in Florida, on to Natal, Brazil, and finally to Accra, Africa. On March 13, 1942, what was to be Kenny's last flight before he retired, Neese was killed when his plane crashed at Natal, Brazil, on a nighttime takeoff from a runway with no lighting. The Alaska Times later published, Kenny Neese was a pioneer of aviation in Anchorage. He played a major role in developing what is now the third most important industry of this city. For the efforts and rescue by Mercy pilot Kenny Neese and his enduring knowledge of the lay of the land of Alaska and its people, the Alaska Aviation Museum is proud to include pilot Kenny Neese in recognition as one of the leading pioneers and pathfinders in Alaska's aviation history into the Alaska Aviation Hall of Fame.